And we are back with episode 258 of
The Horror Guys.
Yay!
I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And, I bet we're going to talk about some horror movies, aren't we?
No.
Yeah, we are. I see it coming.
Okay, what do we got?
We got nothing new this week. We got some classic things.
We got one new one?
Well,
we got two new ones.
Oh, all right. Reflect and Wicca Book are two new ones.
Yes, they are.
I misread that, yeah. Because Wicca Book was actually an official date of 2022, but it's just getting released now. That threw me off.
It's Greek, so it was released in Greece back last year, but it's new for
we're
the rest
just
of
getting
us
wind
now.
of it now. Yeah.
Dates are funny sometimes with movies.
And then we'll watch the cheery and uplifting movie Euthanizer from 2017.
It was really good, but nobody's going to call it cheery and uplifting.
It's not a happy movie, no. It's got some dark humor in it, though. I was surprised how much I chuckled in it, but it's pretty grim. Yeah. And then we're all going to die in 1984's Sole Survivor. Well, there's one person who doesn't, but
they're going to get it eventually.
It's complicated, yeah. And then we go way back to 1935 and watch a classic Bela Lugosi film called The Mystery of the Mary Celeste.
Not one of his best, but it was all right.
It was all right, yeah.
In addition, over at horrorbulletin.com, you can read our reviews of Demons from 1985.
The epitome of 80s movies, 80s horror movies, and boy, is that over the top. That was really good.
It's a little crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy movie.
And also King Kong vs. Godzilla from 1963. That'd be the original one, not the one from a couple years ago. Yeah, so those are over at horrorbulletin.com. Of course, you can read all our other reviews there as well. And then, of course, we got horrorguys.com, which is our main base page that has links to our podcast, which you're listening to, of course. It links to our books, all those good Horror Guys guides.
There's like so many books.
The Horror Guys Guide to the Horror Films of Boris Karloff. The Horror Guys Guide to the Films of Amicus Productions. The Horror Guys Guide to Hammer Productions, and a whole bunch more.
And there's Tales to Make You Shiver, which are some collections of short horror stories.
Short stories, yes.
Yeah.
Written by?
Us.
Yes. And, of course, there's our monthly magazine, Horror Bulletin, which is all our reviews compiled in one place.
You betcha.
You get that as ebook or paperback book. You can go to horrorguysshop.com and find links for all that, or you get them from Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, or any of those book kind of places.
Wherever fine books are sold.
Smashwords. You ever buy anything from Smashwords?
Oh, I haven't in a long time. People do, though.
It's still around.
It's still a thing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an alternative to Amazon.
Yeah. Well, we should probably talk about some movies.
We got the Wicca Book. It's not the Wicca Book. It's just Wicca Book
yes.
From 2022. And like I said, it was released new in Greece.
Yeah.
We're just getting it now.
Written and directed by Von Karapetyan. Stars Christos Diamantidis, Nikos Solaridis, Stelina Vogiatsi, and Kika Zachariadou. Yeah, I'm going to hear about those names.
In case you couldn't tell, it's an international film.
Greek, yes. And this is supposed to be a series of short horror films based on this one idea.
And we're just getting the one episode.
We just got
now.
one episode, 22 minutes, and there's a trailer on the show notes. And spoiler-free, what happens?
Well, everything revolves around a little book, which is Big Trouble in a Little Package. Interestingly, there is no spoken dialogue.
I don't know if that's going to hold up in the whole series, but it does for this one.
Yeah, but they thumb through the book. In addition to the drawings in the book, there's messages in there in English to the users. So it's very well made, and we'd recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not going to spoil it, but, well, okay, maybe I'm going to spoil it a little bit.
Because it's so short, it's hard not to. Yeah.
A man hears a knock at the door at 3 a.m. There's no one there, but he does find a package containing a book. It's a very old book. You might even call it a Wicca book, full of cool drawings. As he flips through the pages, he starts hearing a baby crying. It's coming from the book. It's not an audiobook.
No,
Then he sees a dark figure in his apartment, and he becomes part of one of the drawings.
Yeah, that was a cool transition, how they did that.
A woman then wakes up from a nightmare And later, she and some spelunkers are exploring a cave where they find a pentagram. You know, you explore a cave and find a pentagram, you know you're in trouble.
Yes.
She, too, soon finds the same book down in that cave. She takes it home, and almost immediately weird things start happening. She looks back in the book, which now says, "Give it to someone else before the sunset." We then see her knock on that first man's door, and she leaves the package for him. That's who did that.
You should leave it there.
Yeah, probably should.
Yeah. Let people see it for themselves.
Well, again, this is a Greek-made short horror indie series. There's no spoken dialogue, but the written stuff is all in English. It looks great, and you can always tell exactly what's happening, if not necessarily why. We saw that little time loop thing there where the woman gives the book to the guy who got it in the beginning, so maybe some of these questions will be answered later.
Maybe.
The special effects and the costumes all look really good, and we definitely liked it.
I did.
Thumbs up.
Yes, thumbs up from both of us.
And it's short, which is always good.
Yeah.
Those ones that are long and drawn out tend to not do so well with us.
They get tedious sometimes.
Speaking of which, 2023 has Reflect, written and directed by Dana Kipple, stars Dash Katz, Grace Patterson, Dana Kipple, and Jadelyn Breyer. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free, it's more of a science fiction thriller than horror. I wouldn't even go that far.
Okay, I would.
I would call it a spiritual drama with some special effects.
Well, there you go. That's a nice way to put it, too.
There are things to like about this one. It's made well and looks good on a low budget. There's some fun and some weirdness and some emotional moments that come across, but it stretches out way too long in the middle, and it didn't click well with the horror guys overall.
Yeah, it was... I kind of saw what they were trying to do, and and the humor comes across, but then
This was sent to us, the horror guys, to review. The IMDb listed as a comedy, thriller, horror film. Mm-hmm. I don't see the horror here.
It's pretty low-key.
I'm real flexible on my horror films.
Oh, I'd consider it horror, but pretty low-key on it. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's not spoil the thing to death because it's new and most people probably haven't seen it, but what happens?
A woman asks, "Did you find yourself?" about 100 times as the credits roll. And we are introduced to the various characters through tarot-like character cards that tell us about them.
I liked that.
Yeah, that was a neat start, yeah. Well, Summer calls her friends to see if they want to go on a kind of spiritual retreat. And for some reason, if they make it through, they get a bunch of money. There's it's almost like a contest kind of thing where there's one person who finishes it.
If you survive.
Yeah. But they laugh that off, like, oh, it's just a game. Well, it gets more serious than that. Somehow Liz gets involved, but Summer doesn't like her. Katie is super hyper and already rich, so she doesn't need the money, but she wants to come anyway. So they're on a road trip, and we get to know these gals as they head off to the retreat. At the Game of Life, the spiritual retreat place, Beale's father asks Beale to take over the show this week. Someone needs to take over. You have to follow the girls, record and analyze them, and transmit to all dimensions.
What?
Yeah. And he's got this little transmitter thing that's literally tuned into something or someone out there. All they have to do to win is get one thing none of them ever do. His father warns him not to warn the girls. So the girls are not fully aware of how serious this is. Yeah, what they're getting into. Well, Summer, Katie, Nia, Liz, and Annie run into Hermes. He's a weirdo in the desert. He's got a blanket spread out selling spiritual supplies. And then they get to the retreat. Hermes is already there ahead of them somehow. Well, he has them all dressed in outfits that look like they... And we both said, "Oh, Midsummer." He's still very weird, and he takes their cell phones and snacks. Well, then the group meets Geppetto, who is a big guy with a beard who plays the... How do you pronounce that?
Didgeridoo.
Didgeridoo, yeah.
Not to be confused with didgeridoo.
Right. Well, the girls play a game of I hate when you... with each other, where they all have to say something they dislike about each other. And it comes out various things. Summer's boyfriend, James, has been texting Liz on the side.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, she wasn't interested, and she doesn't even play for that team. Liz has a flashback to her mother watching a preacher on TV. The preacher starts talking directly to Liz. He calls her an abomination. Well, she goes back to the car, but she doesn't get there.
Huh. One down.
We've already lost a player. Katie tells Summer that Annie tried to kill herself last year, and they don't know why. Well, Hermes talks about more metaphysical stuff, and they all go to sleep.
I think I did too at this point.
Oh, wasn't that bad. In the morning, Hermes is gone, has been replaced by Inanna. Inanna likes to dance. And all this stuff is going on. Beale is there, hiding and commenting on all the proceedings. Annie and Nia both have visions. They all wonder what happened to Liz, who vanished last night.
They don't worry too much about it, though.
No, not overly, yeah. And Anna gives them some lemons to drink. And she swears there aren't any drugs in the lemons, but the weirdness that follows kind of contradicts that. It's a pretty trippy trip that they get. Well, then the girls encounter a pair of hikers on their anniversary. And they both talk like they're out of sync with everyone else. One's like on helium, and one's voice is really deep and slow. Well, there's more characters. They run into Zero, Moon, and Kai. 3 goths who don't say much. Just, the characters are weird. Well, Nia tells Katie that she slept with James, and that she didn't tell Summer. Nia hallucinates her very angry mother. Her mother then turns into a black-robed figure, and Nia is gone.
And we should probably stop there.
Yeah, so the players are getting eliminated. And, more stuff happens, more weirdness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very low budget, but the scenery and location shoots are very nice. The excellent cinematographer works really hard to make a very talky movie more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of interesting shots going on here.
Yeah, there are.
It's full of spiritual mumbo-jumbo that you get in these kind of retreats, which makes it funny when it actually turns out to be a magical situation, but the talking went on for far too long. I mean, you got to have character drama. You've got to have interpersonal talking. But the metaphysical blah, 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 blah. Jeez.
My goodness.
The interminable spiritual babble goes on, and Kevin, about halfway through, grumbled, "How much longer does this thing go on? It started out so well."
Yeah, I did. I liked I thought the beginning was strong. Then the wrap up at the ending was nice. Yeah, the middle was stretchy. Too stretchy.
The trailer calls this a comedy sci-fi thriller. It's definitely weird, but I wouldn't call it sci-fi or comedy.
I would.
There's a couple of laughs. Some of the characters are really weird. I like Hermes. He's just a geek.
I chuckled multiple times.
It's definitely not horror, though. I mean, the people get picked off one by one, but you never really see what happens to them. Granted, we two guys, horror fans, are probably not the intended audience for this, but I'm not really sure who is. Really spiritual people?
Maybe.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's a horror. It's not a horror movie.
Spiritual comedy, quirky characters. Yeah, it's kind of hard to pin down.
Yeah, it had a lot of quirky characters that were funny at times, and the visuals really are quite good. That said, it was tediously talky at times. If you're looking for a satirical look at spirituality and those magical retreats, then give this one a look.
Yeah.
Now, I think my favorite for the week
Euthanizer
is Euthanizer from 2017.
Uh-huh.
Written and directed by Timu Nicki, stars Matti Anisma, Jari Vierman, and Hanamaja Nikender, hour and 25 minutes. Spoiler-free, what happens?
And this is an international film, but it was in English. Well, our version was.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember now.
Wasn't it?
It's Finland.
Or was it dubbed?
I don't remember.
That's terrible.
You're going to have to watch and find out. Well, if it was subtitled, it was done so well that we didn't notice.
Yeah, you don't mind. Well, this one is an offbeat film with characters who are beyond eccentric. The acting is great, and the script is a wild and weird ride through these people's lives. And you are warned, animals die in this one. He is a euthanizer. And that warning aside, we liked it and would highly recommend it.
Yeah. Again, my favorite of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are in Finland for this one. And a woman carries a cat in a cage to a man's garage. "Do you euthanize animals here?" "Those two," the man answers. "Oh, what?" Well, she asks if the cat will suffer, and he gives a long speech about how animals in small apartments suffer for their entire lives. No judgment there.
Yeah.
He puts the cat in the trunk of his car, which has pipes to the exhaust. The cat is going to get the gas. We watch as he prepares the dead cat for burial as the credits roll. So yeah, it's no taking it to the vet this time. It's this guy just does it in his car.
Yep.
We cut to Petri, a mechanic in a garage. His boss calls him in and says things have been coming up missing, and he blames Petri. Petri has his dog in the car, and he whines that he can't leave that dog alone for a minute. He really hates this dog, but it's his kid's dog, so he has to put up with it.
Right.
Some men in a diner see Vijo, the Euthanizer, outside, and they don't like the way he talks to Elisa, the woman with the cat. Petri stops in to meet his white supremacist friends, and they talk about the stolen tires that Petri has been bringing them. They all laugh at Petri's dog.
So he is really ripping off the boss.
Yeah. And another man brings his dog to Vijo. He can't afford to keep paying the vet. Vijo rails at the man for buying the dog from a puppy mill. Vijo says he'll euthanize the dog for free if the man gets into the dog's cage in the back of the car. He then locks the man inside the cage, takes the dog out into the woods, and he shoots it. Afterwards, he lets the man out of the cage, and it's clear that Vijo likes animals more than people and has a strong sense of justice.
Yeah, he has a very strong opinions on how animals should be treated. And yeah, it's funny how he constantly struggles with this balance of justice that, punishing and rewarding. And yeah, it's really interesting.
Petri takes his dog to the vet to get spayed, but it's 300 euros. He throws a fit and they call the police. Petri doesn't like the dog very much and tells his girlfriend that the dog ran off and got hit by a car. He then makes an attempt to kill the dog with a tire iron, but he just can't do it. Meanwhile, Vijo visits his father, Marty, in the hospital. The old man can't feed himself and has been there a long time. Petri calls Vijo on the phone and arranges for euthanization of the dog. Oh my, this isn't going to go well, is it?
No, it isn't.
Petri complains that the dog is untrainable and too wild, but Vijo doesn't agree.
Yeah, he's obviously a good dog.
Yeah. Vijo thinks the dog is misbehaving because of Petro's actions. Vijo takes the dog out in the woods, but at the last minute decides that he's a good dog and can't do it either. He takes the dog home and names him Peaky.
He's got a dog now.
Well, he has words with the veterinarian, who doesn't like how he does his job. He doesn't like the way she does her job either. Well, a woman comes to have her guinea pig killed, and she finds the process fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Petri's boss recognizes Vijo's new dog, and they joke about killing people. Petri flips out in front of his white supremacist friends, and it's clear that he's not quite right in the head.
No, he's not.
Lotta, the guinea pig woman, comes back with a sickly dog that she found. She thought the guinea pig was so entertaining, she found another animal to kill.
It was so much fun, she brought back another one. Plus, she's already sweet on Vijo, too.
Yeah. She follows Vijo out into the woods, where he shoots the dog. She's surprisingly okay with it. Afterwards, she asks Vijo for a date. Oh, this was so romantic.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
They go for a drive, and he stops to clean up roadkill animals along the way. She asks him if he does this every night, and he answers, "No, on Sundays I watch TV." She's immensely turned on by this, and they have sex in the woods.
Yeah, they stop the car, collecting the roadkill, and get it on right there.
Well, in the middle of sex, she wants him to choke her, and he gets a little carried away. Oops. Well, he does, however, manage to revive her eventually, and this turns her on even more. Next time, maybe take it a little easier. Vijo brings his dog to the gas station, where Petri's kids see the dog and recognize it.
There's trouble brewing.
Petro wants his money back since the dog isn't dead. Vijo goes to see Petri's boss, and they talk about weird sex. Later, when Lotta comes by, they have another go at it right there in the garage. Well, it turns out that Lotta is Marty's nurse, and she talks to Vijo about the old man's suffering. He doesn't want to talk about it and takes the dog for a walk instead. The next day, the old man asks for some morphine, and Lotta gives him a funny look.
She's been getting some ideas from
You
Euthanizer.
know where this is going, yes.
Yep.
Vijo explains the tortures of catch-and-release fishing to a man who wanted an oil change. What?
He just wanted an oil change.
He gets a call to come to the hospital where his father has suddenly died. Lotta says, Marty is done suffering now.
And this next part is so funny because Vijo plays this one specific song when the euthanizations are going on that he does, and there's a cassette player right there, and he hits play.
and it's the euthanizing song that he uses.
She's got that same song.
He knows what she did.
Yes.
Vijo, on the other hand, wanted his father to live and suffer as much as possible. My father wasn't finished paying off his debt of suffering. He yells at Lotta, and she cries. Probably not the reaction she was hoping for.
No, it wasn't.
At work, Petri gets fired for stealing. His wife calls because the kids told her about the dog, still alive. This causes a fight, and Petri yells a lot. He's very good at yelling.
He is. He's an angry character.
Vijo and the vet argue on the road, and he kidnaps her. They track down the animal she hit with her car, and he makes her apologize to the carcass and bury it. He orders her to hit him over the head with a pipe, and she does.
Yeah, and that's, again, his weird sense of justice, because he felt he went too far with her, so he needed to allow her to get a payback.
Think we should continue. It's a 6-year-old movie, but I bet most people haven't seen it.
I bet most not, and they really should.
Yeah, let's stop there.
Yeah.
You got an idea where this is? It's
and his weird sense of justice and balance. And,
it's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is a weird one. Yes, the dog does eventually die, as do many other animals.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really that much of a spoiler. You know it's coming.
Yeah.
The trailer alone pretty much gives away the whole story.
Somewhat.
Yeah, but it's really well done, and it's surprisingly serious. You're really rooting for some animal revenge on Petri, and he does, in fact, get what's coming to him at the end. It's very good.
Yeah, that was.
Remains to be seen if it's my favorite for the month. You'll find out in the Horror Bulletin Monthly next month what our favorites are.
It's way up there, though. Yeah.
Soul Survivor, 1984. Written and directed by Tom Eberhardt. Stars Anita Skinner, Karen L. Larkey, and Kurt Johnson. Hour and 25. Here's a trailer in the show notes. You like the Final Destination movies?
This was kind of a precursor to that.
This came first.
This originated that idea of death being an entity that tries to kill people.
I don't know if Final Destination was exactly a remake of this one, but it may as well
not
have
exactly,
been.
But
pretty close.
But that fundamental idea is there.
Well, I thought it was surprising how well this one works, even though it's very slow-paced.
I liked it.
It's very suspenseful, and we always wonder what's really happening.
Well, there's always, it's slow is okay as long as there's always something interesting pulling you along.
I like long movies. I don't like boring movies.
Right. It's never boring. Yeah. And it's not that long. It's only an hour and 25.
Yeah, it's good. Gradually, we do find out, and things wrap up, and it's all pretty chilling. It's kind of under the radar and worth checking out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember this being a big hit in '84.
I never saw it. This was my first time seeing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what happens?
Well, a woman on a bus looks afraid, but she has a gun. Another woman has a nightmare about a plane crash. There are bodies everywhere. The only survivor is Denise, the sole survivor, and the woman we saw earlier with the gun. Carla, the woman, is on the plane, and she's Denise. And what this is, it's Carla. There's a psychic having a vision, imagine seeing herself as Denise, and Carla knows that Denise is coming in this morning on a plane. So it's that's an interesting. I liked how they started out with that. Well, they cut to a traffic controller talking to the pilot of that flight, and suddenly the plane goes silent. So Carla foresaw this crash, and Denise is the sole survivor. So we cut to her being carried to the hospital. The doctor, Brian, looks her over, says she's fine, and releases her 8 days later. He warns her about survivor syndrome and survivor's guilt. And she compares her being alive to being billed for a mail-order dress, or, not being billed. You get it? And she says they may have made a mistake, but they eventually find you.
You're going to pay sooner or later.
Yeah, she feels like she got away with something. Well, Denise leaves the hospital through the back door to avoid the press, and she sees a strange girl down there who distracts Denise just as a truck almost runs her over. At home that night, Brian calls her on a phone. He is single, after all. She tells him that she's going to be in a coffee commercial in a few days. She invites him over next Tuesday. Now, Carla calls her to warn to keep the doors locked. Well, that's not at all creepy. A friend, Christy, comes over and brings her own flaky friend, Roxy, who wonders why Denise is alive. Well, the next day, Denise and Carla do their coffee ad. 9 out of 10 doctors prefer Taster's Blend.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, except they're now on take 68, and the producers are not happy. Carla is upset about something, nearly afraid of Denise, and can't get her part right. Afterward, Denise goes on her date with Brian. See, Carla's the actress in the commercial, and Denise is behind the camera. As Denise walks to her car, she sees an old man in a robe standing in the park watching her.
And at this part, we start wondering who these people that she keeps saying off in the distance are. Are they dead people, maybe?
Maybe.
Seems kind of likely.
Brian comes over to Denise's place for sex, but she's preoccupied thinking about that old man. He mentions that a body disappeared from the morgue yesterday, and they assume it's some prank. It's the little girl that Denise saw on the loading dock. And she almost hits another strange man on the road who's just kind of standing there blankly. Well, the next day, the coffee commercial still going badly. They can't get a good take from Carla, who is continuously looking at Denise. Carla explains herself. For a while now, she's been having premonitions and dreams of bad things, not just the airplane crash, but other things too, and no one believes her. She says Denise shouldn't have survived that crash, and anyone who knows about it or suspects will be dealt with. Uh-oh. Well, due to a faulty elevator, Denise winds up in the studio's parking lot, where she sees another creepy man, and this one follows her, and she runs away. On her next date with Brian, she talks about her weird feelings, as if she's about to be caught for doing something wrong, like you're waiting for the axe to fall.
Impending dread.
Yeah, and this movie has some good dread feelings in it, yeah. We cut to some young people playing strip poker at Christy's house. Denise stops by and the party breaks up. Christy sees a strange man outside who drowns her in the swimming pool. Denise sees the man outside and calls the police for help. She identifies the man with police records, but the man she identified has been dead for several days. And they think that Denise is abusing antidepressants or crazy or something. They're just, not possible. Well, Brian talks to the coroner about the dead road inspector who attacked Denise last night. The coroner admits there was some strangeness about how the man died. Same with the old man in the park. It's like they were up and walking around after they died.
They're not ghosts.
The blood all congealed down in their legs. So they were literally dead and up walking around. Well, Carla calls Denise, begs her for her job back, but Denise can't do it. The crazy psychic apologizes for being crazy and then picks up a razor, but we don't see what she does. Denise takes a cab back home. Afterward, the cabbie sees Christy standing on the side of the road. That's dead Christy. And she stabs him to death. Brian finds the body on the way to Denise's house. He takes the cabbie's gun and rushes to Denise's. We see the cabbie open his eyes. Brian rushes in just in time for Christy to stab him. This is dead Christy, walking around and stabbing people. Denise sees the whole thing and picks up the gun. She runs outside where the cabbie almost gets her, but she escapes back to the city. And we're now in the scene with Denise on the bus from the opening of the movie where she had the gun, which Carla correctly foresaw. So she goes to see Carla. Except for you, there's no one else who knows about it but me, she tells Carla. Well, then Carla picks up the gun and shoots Denise. And we see the fatal wrist cuts as Carla gets out of her chair and back into the tub where she was dead from suicide. Everybody. Yeah.
Everybody who's dead is back and killing.
Except there's one more loose end. The coroner calls Brian and gets his machine, reporting that he's got a half a dozen bodies whose blood all drained into their legs as if they died on their feet or were walking around. He knows that something is up. Well, as he works on his reports, Christie and several others sit up behind him. And there is one last loose end that's going to be tied up here.
Yeah. Well, this was inspired by Carnival of Souls from 1962, which we've already reviewed once, and went on to later inspire The Final Destination from 2000, which we've also reviewed. You can find those by going to the site and doing a quick search. It's very slow-paced and suspenseful. You know something's going on, but not much really happens for the first hour. But since there was only one survivor in this film, they had to drag it out a little bit more than the multiple survivors of Final Destination, but it's exactly the same concept. This one is very low budget, and apparently this coroner does autopsies in a big empty warehouse.
It's a big empty space.
It's all very slow moving, but it does work, and we both liked it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Impressed.
What's next?
It held up. The Mystery of the Mary Celeste from 1935, which was also known as Phantom Ship.
I wonder if people did know who Mary Celeste was back in those days.
Yeah. This was directed and written by Denison Clift, also written by Charles Larkworthy. Stars Bela Lugosi, Shirley Gray, and Arthur Margetson. And it's a short one. Run is only an hour and 2 minutes.
I like those old movies. They're good and short.
They get to the point, yeah. And you can actually watch the whole thing on YouTube.
Yeah, this old stuff is just up there.
And spoiler-free, it takes a real-life mystery, and they still don't really know for sure what happened to the Mary Celeste.
There are theories.
There's theories. Well, this gives it a possible explanation. It's well-made, entertaining, heavy on the drama, and it's kind of plausible.
Kinda.
It's not so way out that it couldn't be the real explanation.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are told that the story is based on the real-life disappearance of the passengers of the ship Mary Celeste in 1872, which to this day has never been explained. Captain Benjamin Briggs orders Bilson to load 1,700 barrels of alcohol onto the ship. He says there will be no drinking or cursing on this trip, as the captain is bringing his wife Sarah on board.
Which is ironic, you load 1,700 barrels of alcohol and say, there's no drinking on board.
It's the cargo.
Yeah.
She'll be the only woman on a ship full of men, which is always bad luck.
That's what they say.
She mentions that his friend, Captain Jim Moorhead, has also asked for her to marry him. Oh, love triangle.
Awkward.
Jim comes in, and it's all very awkward. Jim was willing to give up the sea and buy a shop, but Ben never would do that. Anton Lorenzen comes into the bar and orders a whiskey for 10 cents.
Those were the days.
I love it when people buy things and you know how much it cost back then.
Yeah, in 1935.
He gives Jack a sob story, but Jack thought he was dead.
And actually, this is set in 1872.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And he looks so much older now and doesn't have a cent to his name. He said he was shanghaied a few years ago and just wants to forget all about it. Ben comes into Jack's place and offers him $5 a head for a crew, shanghaied or not.
That'd be like 50 shots of whiskey.
Well, he kind of volunteers Hoffman, Harbins, Gillings, Tom, and Charlie, and he promises to send over 3 more men later. This is back in the days when you needed workers, you just went up to the docks and grabbed them.
Yeah,
Hey, you're with me now.
By the time they're on the ship and cast off, it's too late.
Ben is ready to cast off and sends Bilson to get the other 3 men. Jack offers to let Anton go, and when Anton hears that Bilson is the mate, he gets really angry and insists on going. He boards and gets ready for departure. There's still 1 man short, and Ben borrows Grot from Captain Jim. Jim talks to Grot. I like that name, Grot.
And not once does he say, I am Grot.
And suggests that something might happen to Ben on this voyage. Just saying.
Just saying, yeah.
Well, Bilson wants to take up a few sleeping men who have been shanghaied, and there's a quick fight before they go to work. Grot complains that the food has worms in it, and Ben and Bilson teach that man a lesson. It's all very upsetting for Sarah. Grot makes a move, but Ben is fine. Ben orders Grot thrown overboard. He wants to know what isn't with the men that would do that. Bilson tries throwing Anton's cat overboard, but Anton rustles him and makes him stop. Ben works the night shift in a storm that night, and Tom Goodschild lets himself in with Sarah. Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Anton catches him in the act and fights him off. Ben and Katz come in, and Anton feels terrible for killing the man. Then they bury the man in the morning.
Well, burial at sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That night, they find Hoffman dead of a knife wound. Ben doesn't want to upset anyone and just throws the body overboard. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, and maybe nobody will notice. Like, hey, where'd Hoffman go? No, I don't know. I haven't seen him. Maybe he fell over. Yeah.
Ben and Sarah have some alone time in his cabin, but someone points a revolver through the window and shoots at him. Ben checks Bilson's gun, and it hasn't been fired. He questions the men, but no one else seems to have a gun.
No one admits it anyway.
Anton calls Ben. He's found another body. Dugan is dead, clearly murdered. Gillings is dead too. Mr. Tooley finds Gillings' body and jumps to his death off the main mast.
And by this point, I was thinking, aren't they running short on people to run this boat?
Yeah,
this was back in the purely mechanical days. You need people
sails and all that
ropes
stuff,
and keep all this stuff together. Yeah.
Anton talks to Sarah about his own hard luck case and all about death ships. He tells about how a shark bit off his arm while he was being keel hauled. Well, that sucks.
Yeah, it would.
Later that night, someone kills Harbins. Ben and Sarah have gone missing as well. There are only 3 men left: Anton, Bilson, and Katz. Katz goes after Bilson, but Bilson shoots Katz. Now it's just the 2 men, and Bilson wants to get good and drunk. Bilson wants to loot the cash box and sell all the alcohol before moving to China. It's our cargo now.
Except there's only 2 of them, and you can't pilot a ship of that size with just 2 people, can you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Anton says his name is not Gottlieb, is Lorenzen. He pulls a pistol on Bilson, who recognizes the name. He was shanghaied on this ship 6 years ago by Bilson.
Revenge.
He admits killing Ben and Sarah, but Bilson is the one he really wants revenge on. Anton shoots Bilson and throws him overboard to the sharks. Anton roars with laughter. He then gets confused and searches the ship for Bilson. Eventually, he either falls or jumps overboard. Well,
and then there's no one.
The Mary Celeste comes into port, but there's no one on board.
And that part is true.
No one at all.
Yeah, that really happened.
Where did they all go? It's a mystery.
Yeah, we don't know for sure.
Well, Shanghai is like the 17th century version of no one wants to work anymore.
so foursome too.
This is a seriously hostile work environment with toxic management.
Yes, it was.
I don't think cargo ships of the 1800s had staterooms big enough for a piano and a sewing machine like this one has.
That was impressive. That was some nice quarters.
Yeah, you could fit like 5 or 6 more crew in there.
Yeah.
Lugosi is very quiet here. He's expressive, but his accent keeps him from keeps him from really giving good lines. We know from the beginning that he wants to go on this voyage, probably for revenge, but he also seems far too reasonable to be the murderer. He's like the calm one of the group.
Mm-hmm.
It moves fast. There are a lot of killings, mostly off-screen, so the crew narrows down quickly.
Yeah, it's got a good body count.
Yeah, it was hard figuring out who was who in the beginning, but it didn't last long.
Yeah.
Overall, it was pretty entertaining for being 90-some years old.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Okay, and that's it for this time. Over at Horror Bulletin, you can read our reviews of 1985's Demons, directed by Lamberto Bava.
So very 80s.
Very 80s, and also very well done.
Yeah, it was.
The gore and effects are over the top. It's got romance and action and more action.
And a helicopter falling through the roof. Because why not?
Yeah. The evil spreads like an infection, so it's kind of more of a zombie movie than Demons, but that's okay. It's a blast.
And then also King Kong vs. Godzilla is one of the bonus movies out there from 1963.
Directed by Ishiro Honda and Tom Montgomery. It's got not 1, but 2 giant monsters. Plus there's bonus critters. The effects were pretty decent at the time. Despite the title, The versus part isn't really the main part of the film.
Yeah, that surprised me. Like, isn't this called King Kong versus Godzilla? When's that going to happen?
Remember Wolfman versus Frankenstein, where they fought for like 3 minutes at the very end?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of like that.
This has that similar vibe to it. I guess the tension builds, and it's building toward this fight and this epic climax of the battle between the two titans.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a thumbs up overall with some interesting things that happen.
Yeah, I thought so.
And we probably should have mentioned this in the beginning. We went to the theater this week and saw Godzilla -1.
And loved it.
We rarely actually go to the theater for these things. Uh-huh. So many good streaming films.
Yeah.
Very, very good. We liked it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is one worthy of seeing on the big screen.
Oh, yeah, very much.
Yeah.
That one and I think Shin Godzilla are my two favorites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Shin Godzilla was my favorite, and now Godzilla -1 is my favorite of all Godzilla movies.
All the 600 of them or whatever.
All the olds, all the news. Yeah, that's my number one by far.
Yeah, very cool.
Yes.
All right, well, that's our show for this week. Tune in next week where we're probably going to have 4 movies and a short for you.
I bet we will.
That crazy new format. Yeah, or of course you could stop in over at horrorguys.com or horrorbulletin.com and read all the reviews there. Or you could wait till the end of the month and pick up the book.
Ooh,
Horror
books.
Bulletin Monthly, number 28, coming out early in January.
Nice.
28 monthly episodes so far.
28?
That's a lot.
It is. It's a lot of movies.
Ought to compile into one 9,000-page book.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Okay, well, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.